Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. Today, we are going to use the Pear Deck add-on to make your Google Slides even more engaging. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Robin Sneed, high school English teacher and instructional coach. Today, we are going to install the Pear Deck add-on, use Pear Deck features, and then view our engagement reports. So let's get started. So I have this Google slide presentation that I want to make interactive using Pear Deck. The first thing that I'm going to need to do is to go to add-ons. And then I'm going to click on Get Add-ons and install Pear Deck for Google Slides. I've already installed this, so I'm going to close out. And then once I have installed, I can go to Pear Deck for Google Slides add-on and open the add-on. And my toolbar shows up to the right of my screen. So I've created a variety of slides to practice asking students a question interactively so that students don't have to raise their hand. All of the students have to answer, and all of the students have to be engaged with this slide. So I want students to be able to type on this particular slide. I want them to correct the grammar in this slide. The only thing that I have to do is to click on the text icon and then update the slide. And now my students will be able to type their response. On the next slide, I've created a multiple choice question that I want my students to answer. And instead of having them to write their responses on a whiteboard and hold them all up, I can get them to answer the multiple choice by clicking on the multiple choice icon, select next, and then I'm going to type my answer choices. I can add as many responses as I want here by clicking add another, but I just want 4. I'm going to update this slide. On this slide, I want students to be able to give me a range from confused to got it. How confident do they feel about the material that we covered today? And in order to be able to do that, I'm going to click on this draggable icon. Select next. I can choose to have students put a dot, a flag. I can choose to have them just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But since I want them to put the dot in a particular place, I'm going to stick with dot. And then update my slide. And my students now have a dot that they can move. For this slide, I want students to use the 4A's text protocol to respond to an article. I get the 4A's text protocol from nsrfharmony.org. I will link the protocol in the description below. And I want students to go to a website and read this article. So what I'm going to do is to copy the URL for a website that I want to send students to. And then I'm going to select website and next. Copy my URL by clicking on Control V. And now my students will be able to see the website. So let's look at this from a student's point of view. So when I'm ready to start my lesson, I just click on Start Lesson. And I want this to be a student-paced activity for today. Got it. I can copy the link or I can share directly with my Google Classroom. I'm going to copy the link and then go to my teacher dashboard. I'm going to paste the link over here and be a student. And now I can type my answer. For this slide, students have a dot, they drag it wherever they want. And when they're done, they just click off. Notice that students have the questions that I want them to answer side by side on their screen with the article that I want them to read. Going back to the teacher side, if I want to create a lesson that I want all of my students to work on at the same time so I can give immediate feedback in my classroom, I'm going to select instructor paced activity. And students can, once this is projected on my screen, go to joinpd.com and type in FRLBMC, or I can give them a link on my Google Classroom as well. So I'm going to go into this as a student with the instructor paced mode on. And now you can see the student can't click. You have to click forward. Once all of your students are in your class, you're going to start the class. And now when your students answer the question, on my teacher side, I can see that I have one student joined and one response. I can show the responses on the smartboard and we can talk about what the correct answer is. I can give immediate feedback. Then I can hide the responses, go to the next question. My students see the question, they can answer the question. They don't have to click submit. It tells them here with this check mark that they have done this question. So I go over here and I can show my responses and I can see how many students answered the question and how many answered each response. For this question on the student side, they have this dot and they can drag it anywhere. And once they let go of it, they are done. And then when I show responses, I can see all of the dots. So I've only got one student in, I've only got one dot, but if you have multiple students, you will kind of see a scatter plot of where your students are. And then for this slide, you can see that the student has the questions, and just like in the student-paced response, the questions to answer, as well as the article right beside it. Okay, so now I want to see all of my student responses. If you noticed earlier, the student responses were anonymous when I display them on the screen for students to protect their anonymity. But now I want to give the students a grade. So I'm going to go to peardeck.com and then I'm going to log into my teacher account. I just logged in a little while ago, so it remembers me. And now I'm going to click on sessions. So this is the session from today, and I just closed it. Let me show you how to close this one. Just click on the vertical ellipsis, end session, and the session is closed. No students can no longer respond to the session. Then you want to export to spreadsheet. And now I have a spreadsheet of my student responses. So I only have one student, but you could have multiple students' responses here. In order to see everything on my slide, there are a couple of things I'm going to do here. First of all, student emails, I want this to be just wide enough so that I can see all of the student emails. To be able to do that very quickly, I'm going to hover here until I have the double arrows between C and D, and then I'm going to double click on my mouse. And that automatically makes this column just wide enough to see the longest email. And for these responses, I want them to be the same length. So I'm going to click inside the cell that says D and drag over to E, F, G with my mouse held down. And then I'm going to resize all of the cells. So again, I'm going to hover over between D and E, and then I'm going to drag, and that makes all of these cells the exact same width. Let's say I want all of these responses to be centered. I can highlight all of the responses, click here on where it says horizontal align. We want to click the arrow button and then center align, and then all of the responses will be center aligned. As you can see, this response is a bit long, even though we resized it. And we don't want to really have it be have the cell be any wider. We could, but that would get us way off screen. So I just want to wrap the text. So I'm going to select all of my student responses, and then I'm going to go up here, hover over where it says text wrapping, click on the down arrow, and then click the center where it says wrap. And now I can see the entire student response. This is a quick way to go through and grade your students' work. So my question for you today is, how could you use Pear Deck with your next Google Slides presentation? Leave me a comment down below. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you to use Pear Deck with more confidence, give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications of future videos. See you soon.